The cosmic waiter. The vast expanse of space stretched out before Jake Marshall as he gazed through the reinforced glass of the observation deck. Stars twinkled in the distance, their light traveling unfathomable distances to reach his eyes. It was beautiful, awe-inspiring, and utterly boring. Jake sighed, running a hand through his unkempt brown hair. He had dreamed of this moment for years, being on humanity's first interstellar research vessel, exploring the cosmos, and making groundbreaking discoveries. But 6 months into the mission, the excitement had worn off. The days blurred together in an endless cycle of data analysis, equipment maintenance, and staring at the unchanging void of space. Approaching Nexus Station, the ship's AI announced, its voice echoing through the empty observation deck, "Prepare for docking procedures." A spark of interest flickered in Jake's eyes. Nexus Station was a marvel of engineering, a massive space station at the crossroads of several alien civilizations. It was a hub of commerce, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. More importantly, it was a chance for Jake to escape the monotony of ship life, if only for a few days. As the research vessel maneuvered into its assigned docking bay, Jake made his way to the airlock. He had memorized the station's layout during the approach, and he knew exactly where he wanted to go first: the Celestial Oasis, a bar rumored to serve the finest drinks from across the galaxy. The airlock hissed open, and Jake stepped onto the station. The difference was immediate and overwhelming. Where the research vessel was sterile and quiet, Nexus Station was a riot of color, sound, and motion. Aliens of all shapes and sizes bustled about, their voices a cacophony of languages that Jake's universal translator struggled to keep up with. Jake wove his way through the crowd, his eyes wide as he took in the sights. Holographic advertisements flickered in the air, promoting everything from luxury vacations on gas-giant moons to the latest in quantum computing technology. The air was thick with a mix of scents, some familiar, others completely alien. Finally, he reached the Celestial Oasis. The bar was dimly lit, with bioluminescent plants providing most of the illumination. Jake made his way to the counter, squeezing between a towering insectoid creature and what looked like a sentient cloud of gas. "What'd it be?" the bartender asked. She was humanoid, but her skin shimmered with an iridescent sheen, and her eyes were completely black. "Whatever's strongest," Jake replied, flashing his credit chip, "and keep them coming." Hours passed in a blur of exotic drinks and conversations with beings from across the galaxy. Jake felt more alive than he had in months, reveling in the novelty of it all. It was during his 5th, or was it 6th, drink that he overheard a conversation that would change his life forever. "The Zelathorians are looking for new genetic material," a gravelly voice said from a nearby booth, offering quite the prize for anyone willing to participate in their bonding ceremony. Jake's ears perked up. He had heard of the Zolathorians, a highly advanced race known for their mastery of biotechnology. The opportunity to study their genetics up close would be a career-defining moment. Without thinking, Jake stumbled over to the booth. "What kind of prize?" he slurred, leaning against the table for support. The speaker, a reptilian alien with gleaming scales, looked Jake up and down with 4 yellow eyes. "Nothing a human could handle," it hissed dismissively. Maybe it was the alcohol, or the months of boredom, or simply his wounded pride, but Jake felt a surge of defiance. "Try me," he challenged. The reptilian's mouth curled into what might have been a smile. "Very well. The Zelathorians offer advanced biotechnology, the kind that could revolutionize human medicine, extend lifespans, perhaps even unlock the secrets of consciousness itself." Jake's scientific mind raced with the possibilities, even through the haze of alcohol. And what do they want in return? "Participation in their bonding ceremony," the alien replied. "A ritual that joins 2 beings at the genetic level. It's irreversible and not without risks. But for a species as limited as humans, the rewards could be immeasurable." Jake should have walked away. He should have recognized the danger, the absurdity of even considering such an offer. But in that moment, fueled by alcohol and a desperate need for excitement, he made a decision that would alter the course of his life. "I'll do it," he declared, swaying slightly on his feet. The reptilian's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed with calculated interest. "Are you certain? This is not a commitment to be made lightly." Jake nodded emphatically, his inhibitions long since drowned in alien liquor. "Absolutely. Sign me up." "Very well," the alien said, producing a small device from within its robes. "Place your hand on this. It will record your genetic signature and transmit it to the Zalthorians. If they find you suitable, they will contact you with further instructions." Jake placed his hand on the device without hesitation. There was a brief tingling sensation, and then it was done. He had just offered himself up as a participant in an alien mating ritual. As the gravity of what he had just done began to sink in, Jake felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. The last thing he remembered before passing out was the reptilian alien's amused chuckle and a final ominous warning. "Welcome to the game, human. May the odds be in your favor." Jake awoke the next morning with a pounding headache and a vague sense of dread. As the events of the previous night came flooding back, he groaned and buried his face in his hands. What had he done? He fumbled for his communicator, hoping against hope that it had all been a drunken hallucination. But there, blinking on the screen, was a message that made his blood run cold. "Congratulations, Jake Marshall of Earth. Your genetic profile has been accepted for the Zolthorian bonding ceremony. A transport will arrive at Nexus Station in 48 hours to convey you to Zalthoria. Prepare yourself for a journey that will change you forever." Jake stared at the message, his mind reeling. He had done it. He had actually agreed to participate in an alien mating ritual. And now it seemed there was no turning back. As he struggled to process the enormity of his situation, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Yet beneath the fear and regret, there was a tiny spark of excitement. He was about to embark on an adventure unlike any other in human history. For better or worse, Jake Marshall was going to Zalthoria. Welcome to Zalthoria. The Zolthorian transport ship glided through the inky blackness of space, its sleek, organic form unlike anything in Earth's fleet. Jake Marshall stood at a viewport, his forehead pressed against the cool, transparent material as he watched unfamiliar stars streak by. His stomach churned, a mix of anticipation and dread coursing through his veins. Approaching Zalthoria, a melodic voice announced, seeming to emanate from the walls themselves. "Please prepare for atmospheric entry." Jake took a deep breath, straightening his Earth-issue uniform. He'd spent the journey poring over what little information humans had about Zolthorian culture, but he still felt woefully unprepared. As the ship began its descent, he caught his first glimpse of his new home. Zolthoria was a world of breathtaking beauty and alien wonder. Vast crystalline structures jutted from the planet's surface, their facets gleaming in the light of the system's binary stars. Massive floating islands drifted lazily through the sky, tethered to the ground by what looked like living vines. The oceans shimmered with bioluminescent life, creating swirling patterns visible even from orbit. The ship touched down on a landing pad that seemed to grow organically from the surrounding landscape. As the doors hissed open, Jake was hit by a wave of warm, sweet-smelling air. He stepped out onto Zalthorian soil, his legs wobbling slightly as he adjusted to the planet's gravity. A small delegation awaited him, and Jake's breath caught in his throat as he laid eyes on the Zalthorians for the first time. They were tall, easily 7 feet in height, with slender, graceful bodies. Their skin shimmered with iridescent patterns that seemed to shift and change with their movements. But it was their eyes that truly captured Jake's attention, large, multifaceted orbs that reflected the light like living gemstones. One of the Zalthorians stepped forward, raising a hand in what Jake hoped was a gesture of greeting. "Welcome, Jake Marshall of Earth," it said, its voice a harmonious blend of tones that seemed to resonate in Jake's chest. "I am Hilara, your guide and mentor for the bonding ceremony." Jake swallowed hard, trying to find his voice. "Thank you," he managed, his own words sounding flat and graceless in comparison. "I'm honored to be here." Shilara's features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Come," it said, gesturing towards a shimmering structure in the distance. "We have much to discuss, and your preparation must begin immediately." As they walked, Jake couldn't help but marvel at the alien landscape. The ground beneath his feet felt alive, pulsing with energy. Plants of impossible shapes and colors swayed in a breeze he couldn't feel. In the distance, he could see massive creatures soaring through the sky, their bodies undulating like ribbons in the wind. "Your world is incredible," Jake breathed, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his anxiety. Hilara nodded, its crystalline eyes reflecting the surrounding beauty. "Zolthoria is a living entity," it explained. "Every aspect of our civilization is in harmony with the planet itself. It is this balance that we hope to enhance through the bonding ceremony." They reached the base of the crystalline structure, which Jake now realized was some kind of habitation. A section of the wall rippled and parted, allowing them entry. The interior was a marvel of organic technology, with pulsing lights and flowing shapes that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Hilara led Jake to a chamber that reminded him of a high-tech medical bay. "Before we proceed further," it said, its tone becoming more serious, "you must understand the full implications of what you have agreed to." Jake nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. "The bonding ceremony is not merely a physical union," Hilara continued. "It is a merging of genetic material, of consciousness, of very essence. You will be forever changed, as will your Zolthorian partner. The process is irreversible and not without risk." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of risks are we talking about?" Hilara's multifaceted eyes seemed to darken slightly. "In rare cases, the bonding can be rejected. The results can be catastrophic for both participants. But such occurrences are extremely uncommon, especially with our advanced screening processes." Jake swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. "And who exactly am I being bonded with?" "That has yet to be determined," Hilara replied. "You will undergo a series of trials and assessments. Your performance will help us identify the most compatible Zolthorian partner." "Trials?" Jake echoed, a note of worry creeping into his voice. Hilara made a gesture that might have been reassuring. "Nothing beyond your capabilities, I assure you. We simply need to evaluate your physical, mental, and emotional attributes to ensure the best possible match." Jake nodded slowly, trying to process everything he'd been told. Part of him wanted to run, to find a way off this alien world and back to the safety and familiarity of his research vessel. But a larger part, the part that had driven him to explore the stars in the first place, was intrigued. This was a chance to experience something truly unique, to push the boundaries of human understanding. "When do we start?" he asked, squaring his shoulders. Hilara's features shifted again, this time in what Jake interpreted as approval. "Your first trial begins now," it said, gesturing towards a glowing arch that had appeared in the wall of the chamber. As Jake stepped through the arch, he felt a tingling sensation washed over his body. The world around him shimmered and changed, transforming into a vast, alien landscape unlike anything he'd seen before. He realized with a start that he was in some kind of advanced simulation. "Your task," Xylara's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, "is to navigate this environment and locate the source of a unique energy signature. You will face challenges along the way. How you overcome them will tell us much about your suitability for the bonding ceremony." Jake took a deep breath, surveying the bizarre terrain before him. Strange, twisted formations rose from the ground, pulsing with an inner light. The sky above was a swirling vortex of colors he had no names for. In the distance, he could see flashes of movement, creatures or obstacles, he couldn't be sure. As he took his first tentative steps into this alien world, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was woefully unprepared for what lay ahead. But he was also filled with a sense of excitement and determination. This was why he had become an explorer, after all, to face the unknown and push the limits of human experience. "All right," he muttered to himself, a small smile playing on his lips. "Let's see what you've got, Zolthoria." With that, Jake Marshall plunged into the heart of the alien simulation, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. Little did he know that these trials would test him in ways he could never have imagined, pushing him to the very limits of his physical and mental endurance. The path to the bonding ceremony had begun, and there was no turning back now. Trials of the heart. Jake's heart pounded as he navigated the surreal landscape of the Zolthorian simulation. The air shimmered with particles of light that danced around him, responding to his movements. As he pressed forward, the terrain shifted unpredictably. One moment, he was scaling a cliff face made of pulsating crystals, the next wading through a sea of luminescent liquid that defied gravity. Adaptive problem-solving initiated, Xylara's disembodied voice echoed. "Observe and overcome." Suddenly, the ground beneath Jake's feet dissolved into a swirling vortex. Acting on instinct, he leaped for a nearby floating platform, his fingers barely grasping its edge. As he pulled himself up, he realized the platform was alive, a massive leaf of some alien plant. It undulated beneath him, threatening to throw him off at any moment. "Impressive reflexes," Xylara commented. "Now, let's test your empathy and communication skills." The leaf platform carried Jake to a clearing where a group of alien creatures huddled. They resembled a cross between Earth's manta rays and bioluminescent jellyfish, their translucent bodies rippling with patterns of light. One of the creatures appeared injured, its lights flickering weakly. Jake approached cautiously, hands raised in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The creatures recoiled, their lights pulsing in frantic patterns. Jake realized he needed to communicate, but how? Remembering the responsive nature of the simulation, Jake focused on projecting feelings of calm and concern. To his amazement, his own skin began to glow faintly, mimicking the creature's bioluminescence. The aliens relaxed slightly, allowing him to approach the injured one. Up close, Jake could see a thorny tendril wrapped around the creature's body, constricting its movements. With gentle movements, he began to untangle the tendril. As he worked, he hummed softly, a melody that came to him instinctively. The creature's lights synchronized with his tune, and soon the entire group was pulsing in harmony. As the last of the tendril fell away, the injured creature's lights surged brightly. It brushed against Jake in what felt like gratitude before the entire group ascended into the sky, their bodies merging into a spectacular light show. "Exceptional?" Xylara's voice returned. "You've demonstrated creativity, compassion, and the ability to connect across species barriers. These are highly valued traits in a potential bondmate." Before Jake could respond, the simulation shifted again. He found himself in a vast library, its shelves stretching infinitely in all directions. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing complex equations and diagrams. "Your next challenge," Xylara explained, "is to solve an unsolved problem in Zolthorian quantum physics. You have 1 hour." Jake's mind reeled. He was an astrophysicist, not a quantum physicist. But as he examined the equations floating before him, he realized something. The mathematical language was alien, but the underlying principles were familiar. It was like a cosmic puzzle, pieces of different realities fitting together in ways he'd never imagined. Losing himself in the problem, Jake began to manipulate the holographic displays. His hands moved with increasing confidence, rearranging symbols and drawing connections. Time seemed to blur as he worked, his mind expanding to encompass concepts that would have been incomprehensible to him just days ago. Just as the final pieces fell into place, the simulation dissolved around him. Jake found himself back in the medical chamber, gasping for breath. Xylara stood before him, its crystalline eyes gleaming with what Jake hoped was approval. "Remarkable," Xylara said. "You've not only solved the equation, but proposed an entirely new framework for understanding multidimensional quantum entanglement. Your mind is uniquely adaptable." Jake slumped to the floor, exhausted but exhilarated. "Did I pass?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Lara made a gesture that might have been a nod. "You've exceeded our expectations in ways we did not anticipate. But the final trial still awaits, the test of emotional resonance." The chamber transformed once more, this time into a serene garden. Floating orbs of light drifted through the air, each containing what looked like memories or emotions. "To complete your trials," Lara explained, "you must connect with these essences. They contain the emotional experiences of potential Zolthorian bondmates. Find the one that resonates most deeply with your own emotional core." Jake stood, his legs shaky but determined. As he moved through the garden, he reached out to touch the glowing orbs. Each contact sent a jolt through his system, flashes of alien lies, hopes, fears, and dreams. Some were so foreign they made him recoil. Others sparked curiosity or wonder. But as he neared the center of the garden, one orb caught his attention. It pulsed with a soft, familiar light that seemed to call to him. With trembling fingers, Jake reached out and touched it. Instantly, he was overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. A deep longing for connection, a burning curiosity about the universe, and a profound sense of isolation despite being surrounded by others. It was as if someone had reached into his soul and extracted his deepest, most private feelings. Tears streamed down Jake's face as he cradled the orb. "This one," he whispered. It's me." The garden faded away, leaving Jake once again in the medical chamber. But this time he wasn't alone. Standing before him was a Zalthorian unlike any he'd seen before. Its iridescent skin shimmered with patterns that mirrored the starry sky, and its eyes. Jake gasped as he recognized the same longing, the same curiosity he felt in the orb. "Jake Marshall," Lara said solemnly, "meet Zoraxol, your chosen bondmate. You have both selected each other through the trials. The bonding ceremony can now begin." As Jake locked eyes with Zoraxol, he felt a connection that transcended species, language, and even physical form. Whatever happened next, he knew his life would never be the same. The bonding ceremony loomed ahead, a culmination of all he had experienced and learned. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Jake stepped forward to meet his destiny, ready to become part of something greater than himself, a bridge between two worlds, two species, and two hearts beating as one across the vastness of space. The human element. As the day of the bonding ceremony approached, Jake found himself thrust into a whirlwind of preparations. Each moment was filled with new discoveries about Zolthorian culture, biology, and the intricate ritual that would soon bind him to Zoraxol in ways he could scarcely comprehend. The Zolthorian capital buzzed with excitement. News of the first human participant in a bonding ceremony had spread, drawing curious onlookers from across the planet. Jake couldn't help but feel like a specimen under a microscope, acutely aware of the alien gazes that followed him everywhere he went. "You must forgive their curiosity," Zoraxol said one evening as they walked through a bioluminescent garden. Her voice was a melody that seemed to resonate in Jake's very bones. "Your presence here is unprecedented." Jake nodded, still marveling at how quickly he'd grown accustomed to Zoraxol's alien beauty. "I understand. I just hope I don't disappoint them." Zoraxol's skin rippled with patterns that Jake had come to recognize as amusement. "You've already exceeded all expectations, Jake Marshall. Your unique perspective has intrigued many." It was true. In the days since passing the trials, Jake had found himself engaged in deep discussions with Zolthorian scientists, philosophers, and artists. His human viewpoint, once dismissed as primitive, was now sought after for its fresh insights. One afternoon, while observing a Zolthorian quantum computer in action, Jake had an epiphany. "What if," he mused aloud, "we combined your quantum entanglement technology with human neural mapping? We could create a form of instantaneous, long-distance communication that bridges the gap between our species." The Zolthorian scientists had been skeptical at first, but as Jake explained further, drawing diagrams and spouting equations with an enthusiasm that transcended language barriers. They began to see the potential. Within hours, a new research project was underway, with Jake at its center. This wasn't an isolated incident. Jake's human element seemed to spark innovation wherever he went. His suggestion to incorporate earth music into Zolforian sound sculptures led to a new art form that swept across the planet. His ideas on sustainable ecosystems, inspired by Earth's diverse biomes, prompted a re-evaluation of Zolforia's environmental policies. As the bonding ceremony drew nearer, Jake realized that his impact on Zolforian society went far beyond what anyone had anticipated. He wasn't just a participant in an alien ritual, he was becoming a catalyst for change. The night before the ceremony, Jake stood on a balcony overlooking the crystalline cityscape. The twin moons of Zolforia hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over everything. Zoruxel joined him, her presence a comforting warmth at his side. "Are you prepared for tomorrow?" she asked, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the starlight. Jake took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be, I suppose. There's still so much I don't understand about all this." Zoruxel's skin shimmered with patterns of reassurance. The bonding is not about understanding, Jake. It is about feeling, connecting, becoming something greater than the sum of its parts. Jake turned to face her, struck once again by the depth of emotion he saw in her alien features. "I never expected any of this when I made that drunken bet," he admitted. "But now I can't imagine being anywhere else." Zoruxel reached out, her slender fingers intertwining with Jake's in a gesture that bridged their biological differences. "You have brought something to our world that we did not know we were missing," she said softly. "Your human spirit, your boundless curiosity, your ability to see connections where we saw only separation. The bonding will not just join us, it will open new pathways for both our species." As they stood there, silhouetted against the alien sky, Jake felt a profound sense of rightness. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever transformations the bonding would bring, he was ready to face them. The next morning, Jake was awakened by the sound of distant chanting. He dressed in the ceremonial robes that had been prepared for him, a shimmering fabric that seemed to change color with his every movement. As he stepped outside, he was greeted by a procession of Zolforians, their bodies adorned with intricate bioluminescent patterns. Lara appeared at his side, its crystalline eyes gleaming with an emotion Jake couldn't quite name. "It is time," it said simply. The procession wound its way through the city, growing larger with each passing moment. Zolforians lined the streets, their voices joining the chant in a harmonic convergence that made the very air vibrate. Jake felt as if he were floating, carried along by the energy of the crowd. They arrived at a massive structure unlike anything Jake had seen before. It resembled a living cathedral, its spires reaching towards the sky like giant, crystalline trees. At its center was a platform surrounded by swirling energy fields that pulsed in rhythm with the chanting. Zoruxel waited for him there, her form radiant in the morning light. As Jake ascended the platform to join her, he felt a shift in the air, as if the very fabric of reality were bending around them. "Citizens of Zolforia," Phylara's voice boomed out, amplified by some unseen technology. "We gather today to witness an historic moment, the bonding of Jake Marshall of Earth and Zoruxel of Zolforia. May this union herald a new era of understanding and cooperation between our peoples." Jake and Zoruxel faced each other, their eyes locked in a gaze that seemed to transcend physical form. The energy fields around them intensified, creating a cocoon of light that separated them from the rest of the world. "Are you ready?" Zoruxel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He reached out, taking Zoruxel's hands in his own. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded into light and sensation. Jake felt as if he were being unmade and remade in the same instant, his consciousness expanding to encompass new dimensions of thought and feeling. He saw flashes of Zoruxel's life, her childhood on a distant moon, her years of scientific study, the loneliness that had driven her to seek a bondmate. At the same time, he felt Zoruxol experiencing his memories, the wonder of his first view of Earth from space, the joy of scientific discovery, the deep-seated need for connection that had led him to this moment. Their minds merged, thoughts and emotions flowing freely between them. Jake felt his understanding of the universe expanding exponentially, Zolthorian knowledge flooding into him, even as his human perspective reshaped Zoruxol's worldview. The process was overwhelming, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Jake felt as if he were drowning and flying simultaneously, losing himself and finding a greater self in the same breath. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The energy field dissipated, and Jake found himself still standing on the platform, still holding Zoruxol's hands. But everything had changed. He looked at her with new eyes, seeing not just her physical form, but the complex tapestry of thoughts, emotions, and experiences that made up her being. And he knew, without a doubt, that she saw him in the same way. "It is done," Haxilara announced, its voice filled with awe. "The bonding is complete." As the crowd erupted in cheers, Jake and Zoruxol turned to face them. Their joined hands glowed with a soft light, a visible manifestation of the bond they now shared. Jake felt a surge of emotion, love, wonder, and a deep sense of purpose. He and Zoruxol were more than just two individuals now. They were a bridge between worlds, a living symbol of the potential for understanding and cooperation between different species. As they descended from the platform, Jake caught glimpses of the future unfolding before them. He saw human and Zolthorian scientists working side by side, unlocking the secrets of the universe. He saw diplomatic missions, cultural exchanges, a blossoming relationship between Earth and Zolthoria that would reshape the galaxy. And at the center of it all, he saw himself and Zoruxol, forever changed but stronger for it. They had taken a leap into the unknown, driven by curiosity and the hope for connection. What they had found was beyond anything either of them could have imagined. As the twin suns of Zolthoria rose higher in the sky, bathing the world in golden light, Jake Marshall, once a bored astrophysicist, now a cosmic pioneer, stepped forward into a new life, ready to face whatever adventures lay ahead. The story of the human who lost a bet and found a universe was just beginning, a new frontier. The years following Jake and Zoruxol's bonding were a whirlwind of discovery, innovation, and unprecedented interstellar cooperation. Their unique union had opened doors that neither humanity nor the Zolthorians had ever dreamed possible. Jake stood on the observation deck of the U.S. Harmony, Earth's first joint human-Zolthorian starship. The vessel was a marvel of hybrid technology, combining the best of both species' scientific knowledge. Its sleek, organic curves housed quantum computers that could process information faster than any system in known space, while its bioengineered hull could adapt to various space phenomena, making it virtually indestructible. "Captain Marshall," a voice called from behind him. Jake turned to see his first officer, a young human named Aisha Chen, approaching with a holographic display hovering above her palm. "The Zolthorian High Council is ready for your report." Jake nodded, straightening his uniform, a blend of traditional Starfleet design and Zolthorian bioluminescent fabric. "Thank you, Commander. Let's not keep them waiting." As they made their way to the conference room, Jake marveled at how far they'd come. The Harmony wasn't just a ship, it was a floating embassy, a research station, and a beacon of hope for interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. The conference room hummed to life as they entered, holographic projections of the Zolthorian High Council materializing around the table. At the center was Zoruxol, her iridescent form as breathtaking as ever. Though light years apart physically, Jake could feel her presence through their bond, a constant source of comfort and strength. "Greetings, High Council," Jake began, his voice steady and confident. "I'm pleased to report that Operation Starbridge is proceeding ahead of schedule." He gestured, and a 3D map of the galaxy sprang to life above the table. Glowing lines connected various star systems, representing the network of quantum communication relays they've been establishing. With these relays in place, Jake continued, we'll be able to achieve instantaneous communication across vast distances. This network will not only facilitate trade and diplomacy, but also serve as an early warning system for cosmic phenomena and potential threats. One of the council members, an elder Zalthorian named Vexathor, leaned forward. Impressive, Captain Marshall. But what of the anomalies your team detected in the Cygnus sector? Jake's expression grew serious. He waved his hand, and the galactic map zoomed in on a cluster of stars. Strange, swirling vortexes appeared, distorting the fabric of space-time around them. We've dubbed these phenomena quantum storms, Jake explained. They appear to be localized areas where the laws of physics break down. Our initial probes were unable to penetrate these storms, but we have a— Thank you, High Counselor, Jake replied, struggling to keep his voice professional despite the emotions swirling within him. With your approval, I'd like to assemble a joint task force to investigate these quantum storms further. We'll need the best minds from both our worlds working together. Vexthor, who had initially seemed skeptical, now leaned forward with interest. I move to approve Captain Marshall's proposal, he said. All in favor. The vote was unanimous. As the council members flickered out of existence, Jake let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Aisha clapped him on the shoulder, her face beaming with excitement. Looks like we're in for quite an adventure, Captain, she said. Jake nodded, a smile spreading across his face. That we are, Commander. That we are. As they left the conference room, Jake's mind was already racing with plans. They would need to modify the harmony sensors to penetrate the quantum storms.